Just a special good morning to everyone out there. It's really cold today. This morning I woke up and it was just frosting outside. So, anyway, grab your cup of tea and um, I'm just going to go through some of the things that we have been talking about, and then we're going to get into our topic for today. I've nicely drawn up this diagram here to discuss today our main topic, which is really about the development of the intuitive or psychic ability and what does it really mean. Okay. Hi Savannah, good morning. So in episode 1 of our intuition development mastery, we spoke about the 3 ways to cultivate your intuition, and that specifically spoke about number 1, making a commitment to actively make decisions on the spot, not depending on others to make decisions for you, right? So that was number 1. Number 2 was not doubting yourself or running for others for advice all the time, right? It's all about trusting wholeheartedly that you have the answer within you. And number 3 was meditation as a practice to cultivate silence, to really hear what your intuitive self is saying, right? So that was episode 1. And episode 2, I shared a little bit about my story and about how I moved from struggle and depression into living a life of love, flow, and happiness, and one that is guided by my intuition every day. So today, as a natural progression, good morning, Bobby, we're going to answer the question, what does it take to develop my intuition or psychic ability? What does it really entail? And, this is why as I said, I have this diagram here, right? Because in understanding this model, you'll get a crystal clear picture of how to really hone in on this ability that all of us have. And I repeat that, all of us have this ability, because I get the question sometimes, I wasn't born with ability, so how is it that I could develop this ability? And the truth is, it's all, we just use 20% of our brain. Some of us use less, some of us use a little bit more. But imagine if you were to use all of the capacity of your brain, what you'd be capable of. Scientific studies have shown that people can develop, their psychic abilities. Even there have been scientific experiments that showed, people can develop telekinesis, right, which is the ability to concentrate on an object and move it. So the scientific experiments are there. So in explaining this model, we have typically 4 distinct. Now, before I get into this model, I just want to explain to you that this model is something that was crafted by myself. And as I mentioned in previous live classes, I work with the scientific community very closely. I help them with research on intuitive development. So this model was developed on all the studies that we have looked at. So what I want to show you here is that this is a very, very interesting model when I go through it and you really understand the things that I'm trying to show you here. And it's often a model that I teach in our intuitive mastery class, in which we train people how to really develop their intuitive ability. So, I mean, getting onto the model, I have my little marker here. We have 4 different models of or levels of intuition, right? So the first 3 levels are levels of what I call base intuition, and we're going to go through them in 1 minute. So the first 3 level, meaning level 4, level 3, and level 2. And the 4th level is crossing the threshold into pure psychic energy. And this is a level where you have many sub levels, right? So this is level 1. So we're going to go through that as I begin to take the sticky notes off, right? So why am I explaining this to you, right? You see, often people hear the term intuition, and it's often used interchangeably with the term psychic. But what I'm highlighting for you here, I'm proposing that level 1 is very high psychic energy. But what I'm proposing is that don't be confused with the term psychic and intuition. Psychic energy is your intuition, but there's a big but in this. It's the finest, most developed aspect of your intuition. So in this model, these first 3 layers are layers of your intuition until you get to level 1, which is a very fine, developed aspect of your intuition. And I call that pure psychic energy, right? So what does level 4 entail? Before I get into that, I'm just going to take a check of the comments that are coming through here. All right. Bobby, move the mirror with my own eyes. Oh, great. So you're really good in telekinesis. Great. Okay. Great to see you guys here. So we're discussing this model again, and we're going to look here at level 4. And level 4 is what I refer to as thin slice. Okay, and this is actually a term that is used in the psychological world. So let me explain what thin slicing means to you. Thin slice refers to the method by which people know information about others. And the best way to describe this is to think of, I'm going to use the example of a psychologist, right? A psychologist has trained for years assessing problems, personality, childhood trauma, and as a result of that experience, the psychologist would be able to, within 2 minutes of meeting a person, tell that person a lot of information about themselves, right? And I think some of us, to an extent, have experienced that because of our past experience. We can meet someone and what we call intuitively know what's really happening with that person. So getting back to the psychologist, using the psychologist as an example, they're able to tell what that person is currently experiencing and their childhood traumas. And that is simply by observing the person for all of 2 minutes. So how does that really happen? So many people would argue that this is not intuition, but it is. It's a very high cognitive level of intuition, and cognitive meaning that it employs your brain. And there are a lot of therapists and coaches that employ this, but it's extremely effective in helping people move forward, right? Now, just again to summarize what I mean by thin slicing and to tie it back into intuitive ability. It's the ability to make accurate judgments about a person that comes, and get this, from reviewing patterns and behaviors, right? And that can often, as I mentioned, come from someone who has studied personalities who have studied behaviors, and in a split second, in 2 minutes, in fact, they can tell, okay, so this person is this type of personality, this is what they have gone through in their life, etc. Right? Now, what's really very interesting, how do you begin to develop at level 4 of this intuition is will be explained by what I have to share with you, right? Methods like tarot, tasseomancy. Tasseomancy is it's the ability to read a person by looking at formations at the bottom of a cup of coffee that they just drank, right? So, again, that's tarot, tasseomancy, even pendulum, using the pendulum. That actually falls into level 4 of intuitive development. And remember, what I just mentioned, these are just tools, right? Tools like tarot, they're really just tools. And your ability to use these tools effectively comes from learning, watching the patterns of the cards and in what position they are in. So, no tarot reader becomes an expert by just picking up a deck of cards and reading someone, right? If that was the case, they wouldn't need tarot. They would just be in tune with their own psychic energy. But with many tarot readers, they had to learn how, cards are, laid out in what position, in what specific pattern, what does each card mean. They've had to learn that. Okay, and they've had to really combine it with some aspect of deeper levels of intuition to interpret what they're seeing, right? And that's the same concept that resides in level 4 of developing your psychic ability, which is at the pure intuitive level, level 1. So if you're really looking to develop your psychic ability, start with level 4, right? And the reason why I'm saying that is that this is the foundation for all levels of intuition. Because when you begin to go down this pyramid, the ability to really understand your psychic energy comes from understanding patterns and symbols that you would be receiving, right? So, no two person has the same symbols or the same meaning of the symbols that they receive. So I'll give you an example. Sometimes in my dream, if I'm shown a car, that means something for me, and it's very specific to how it relates to my life. But for example, if, for example, Bobby has a dream with a car in it, then Bobby can interpret that dream in a different way. So again, understanding your psychic energy comes from really understanding the patterns and the trends that are around you, okay? And that becomes specifically important when you are at level 1. But I'm saying to move through this pyramid, this inverted pyramid, in a systematic way, whereby you can start with level 4, tin slicing. What are symbols around you? How can I use tarot as a tool, or how can I use very basic oracle cards? I pulled out my very first oracle deck to show you, right? This is a very simple deck from Doreen Virtue. It's called Angel Therapy, and this was the very first deck I had. And the reason why I started with this deck, in fact, it was gifted to me, is because it's very simple, and you can use this if you're beginning to really understand the world of oracles and the world of using your intuition more, because it's a very basic deck. And then when you begin to develop This level, again, when you begin to develop at this level, you can move into more very advanced decks, which, for example, would be tarot. And I have my other deck here. I have many other decks, but I particularly like the decks from Colette Baron Reid because the decks from her are advanced and gives you a very detailed synopsis when you do an oracle reading or trying to test your intuition. One of the things that I mentioned last week on our live session. Hi, Ami. Good morning. Nice to have you from Vancouver. So one of the things I mentioned last week in our live feed was the use of oracle cards, because the question was, can I use oracle cards to strengthen my intuition? So I thought that was a really good question, and the reply that I gave was that cards, tarot, pendulums, they're just tools to help you hone in on your intuition. It should not be replaced for your own intuition, okay? So remember, when you're using things like these, try to use it in a way that helps you to test your intuition. So if you woke up in the morning and you feel like, you know what, today's going to be a day whereby I feel I need to work on my heart chakra, for example, use a very simple deck to test whether this is true or not. And when you use the card, try to really gauge, what is this card? What else is this card trying to tell me? And try to engage your intuition in that way. So that is about level 4, okay? And as we move down the inverted pyramid, we get to level 3. So level 3 is what we refer to as somatic cues. So, I mean, what on earth does that mean, right? Somatic cues. So somatic cues, when you see the term somatic, it really it refers to anything that deals with your body, right? Hence the term somatic. So when you're a very sensitive person like myself, your body is always responding to your environment around you. And you often know when someone is sensitive because guess what? They're always getting sick, right? And always responding to the energy around them, right? Helen is saying, I visit people without leaving my house. Okay, great. So Helen, we're going to talk about where does that reside on our inverted pyramid. Okay, so let's just keep that in mind. So, so we were saying that the body always responds to the environment around you. And you often know, as I was saying, when someone is sensitive because, again, they're always, getting sick and responding to energy that is around them, meaning that they're internalizing their energy. And if you can identify yourself in what I just said, then it means that you've got to learn how to strengthen your energetic boundaries, but still preserve your level of sensitivity, right? So, back to somatic awareness or somatic cues. It has been scientifically proven that your body actually responds to intuitive energy before it even shows up in your mind. So remember this, right? In order to have a premonition or a vision, right, you recognize that it's a vision because it shows up in your mind, right? So it shows up in your conscious mind. So what I'm saying is that before that vision shows up in your consciousness or in your conscious mind, the body is already responding or picking up the cues at a very, very subtle level. So the body is inherently picking up that intuitive energy first and then transferring it to the mind for it to be recognized at the conscious level. So Reiki practitioners are really good in this, Reiki masters or Reiki practitioners, and they understand what I'm talking about here. So, do we have any Reiki practitioners or masters out there, give us a shout out, because I know that some of you guys would truly understand what I'm referring to when we speak about somatic awareness. Okay, so with Reiki in particular, the person is feeling the energy of another person or even themselves, and they, Reiki practitioners are so attuned to the awareness of their body that they know when their intuition is speaking to them, right? So, in developing level 3 of your intuitive awareness, I recommend cultivating that connection with your body by learning Reiki or any practice that allows you to really connect with your own energy field, right? So, this is a really critical part of developing your intuition, because it allows you to really connect with your body. What is my body telling me? Okay, and it's often without using a tool, because you're really connecting with your field, and that is one of the most critical things before you can even get to level 1 of developing your purest intuitive ability, right? So level 2, I'm just going to, Savannah is saying, yes, I feel energy from other people. And, that's extremely important, Savannah. I want to throw out a question to you, Savannah. When you feel energy from other people, is it just a good energy and a bad energy? Or are you picking up other people's junk? What is really happening in that process? So Bobby's saying it's also creating energy. Can you create energy? Okay, yes. Right, and that's what creates the power. So, as I was saying, Reiki practitioners, people who are really sensitive, will really understand level 3 of developing your intuitive or psychic ability, right? Level 2 is what I like to call knowing. And I refer to that as a deep knowing. And it's where you just know something without having any explanation. And it's very different from picking up things with your body. It's not just, I get a vibe. A vibe is, yes, I feel something. I'm in a room, and I pick up this very bad vibe from this person. Knowing goes a little bit deeper. It's where, it isn't necessarily a premonition, but it's kind of like a gut feeling. But it's very different from, walking into a room and you feel your body's picking up this thing about this person. It's a very different approach. It's almost as though your guides or guardian angels just sort of whispers in your ear and says, be careful about this, or watch out for this, or be aware of X, Y, and Z today, right? So it's kind of like that very deep knowing, and I refer to that sometimes as a hunch, or a gut feeling. A gut feeling minus body awareness is how I like to describe it, right? Now, in developing this level of intuition, which is level 2, a very critical level in intuitive development, one of the exercises that I teach in our intuitive mastery class is connecting to your dream field, okay, as one of the methods to access deep knowing. So Maha, I hope I'm saying that right, is saying it's stronger. Yes, it's definitely a stronger part of accessing intuitive guidance, right? It's not relying on the body, but it just comes to you just like that, right? So we were speaking about how to strengthen this level of your intuition. And I was talking about one of the exercises that we teach in our intuition mastery class, and that's called a dream field. And I encourage you to Google if you're not familiar with that. I'm just going to give you a brief synopsis of it. Dream field is a term that is coined by the ancient Toltecs, in which you're not only accessing the energy of the four elements, and those are the elements of fire, earth, water, and air, but also a fifth element, which is ether, right? And in this fifth element, all information is there, right? So I want you to do some research. I mean, time doesn't permit me to go into this in detail, because when we get into the dream field exercises, it's very, very deep exercises where you are trying to manipulate your dreams, and working with the different elements in your dreams to cultivate a sense of deep knowing in your conscious awareness, right? So it really gets in depth into that. If you want precise meditations or exercises about dream fields, you can probably find some on the internet, and I can do some research and post a link to, if I find anything on this live video, so you can come back and have a look at it, so you can read up on it and maybe try some of the exercises. Or, what I'll invite you to do is to check out our 3-month intuitive mastery course coming up in January 2017. I'm going to be working with people for 12 classes to help you really hone in on this ability. And if there's some interest, just send me an email via my website and I can put you on the waiting list to get onto that class, okay? So, getting on to level 1 is what I call pure psychic energy, right? And there are different sub-layers within this, which I have indicated here by level 1A, B, and C. Now, what I want to share with you is that pure psychic energy has so many different layers to it that, in the interest of space on my computer and, getting all the information onto this board, I could not. There's just no way I can include all the sub layers. But what I did do was that I identified for you the 3 main aspects that are very important for understanding this layer. And level 1A starts with what I call premonitions, right? And premonitions are, as the name implies, you have a vision about something and it comes to pass, whether it's 1 week from now, a day from now, 1 hour from now, okay? The other part is telepathy, which some of you may be aware that you have it, and some of you may not be aware that you have telepathic abilities. When I was 19 years of age, actually, I was dating this guy, and I would always try to practice. He didn't know this, but I would always try to practice sending him thoughts with my mind to see if he would pick it up, to see if he would be receptive. But it turns out that his mom, she was extremely, she had some psychic energy in her, and she used to actually pick up on the thoughts that I would be sending to her son. So one day she said to him, I'm going to use a different name, right? Let's use George, for example. She said to George, someone's trying to send thoughts to you, and these are the thoughts that they're sending. And the only person that he could have thought of was myself, because he knew that I was into stuff like this, right? So he came to me and he said, Nita, have you been trying to send thoughts to me? And these were the things you were trying to send. And at that point, my mouth just dropped open like, oh my God, this really works, right? Because at that point, I had no idea that I could really communicate with telepathy. So what I'm trying to say is that when you get into the pure psychic level of development, telepathy is one of the things that begins to develop just by practicing, just by, you sit there with next to someone and you visualize that you are sitting within their energy field and that an energy field is connecting both of you guys together, and you are sending actively a thought from that person to you, from you to that person, and then you are, communicating with that person. So what did I send to you? And this is an exercise that my husband and I always do. It is an exercise that we like to do in the car while he is driving, and I send a thought to him and I say to him, well, what did I just send you? So it's something that you can practice from time to time. Now, if you move through these different levels, as I said, when you get to this level here, it becomes really easier, right? You don't have to put a lot of effort into it, right? And another exercise that can really help strengthen your ability at the pure psychic level is in the dream state again, right? Where you learn how to manipulate the unconscious mind during dreams, what some of us refer to as lucid dreams, right? So I think, someone made a comment here. I can't see all the comments right now. I will go back and answer the comments individually after the live stream. But, someone made a comment about they are in a room and they can enter someone else's house, right? And that's pure psychic level. This is this level of energy, okay? And I was talking about lucid dreams, right? Where you're able to enter. Yes, it's an out of body experience, Bobby, where you can have out of body experiences as well. Sorry. And in lucid dreaming, you can actually control what happens in your dream. And you can also direct the conscious mind of what's going to happen when the conscious mind awakes, when it goes back into the very awake level, which is actually into a beta level of consciousness. Okay? So it's a really powerful tool, guys, to develop once you get a hang of it, right? And more details of this and other exercises. I mean, you can do a lot of research on the internet on lucid dreaming, and there are tons of exercises out there on how to do lucid dreaming. Okay, and we also teach specific exercises for that in our Intuition Mastery class coming up. So, make sure to send me an email indicating your level of interest. So I'm going to go back through this level so you really understand how we tie this in together. A lot of people, when they come to me, they say, I want to develop my intuitive ability. And immediately they just want to jump to this level. Now that's all good and great, but what I'm recommending to you is that if you really want to do this in a very painless way and in a way that helps and fosters your growth rather than doing harm to your system, try to develop in a very systematic way from level 4 down to level 1. So level 4, it's really about understanding patterns, symbols around you, right? Because when you get to level 1 and you start doing a lot of the dreams and things, messages start coming to you in the dreams, you're going to have to know, what are these symbols? What do they mean? Very often, I have a friend who calls me up and she says, I just dreamt of X, Y, and Z. What do you think it means? Now, I can tell you in a general sense what it means, but very often every single person will have their own individual dictionary of what symbols or patterns mean. So spend some time in level 4 working with oracle cards, working with pendulums. Spend some time in this area developing your ability to really assess patterns, trends, etc. Right? Level 3 speaks about connecting with your body, connecting and understanding your own energy field, connecting to that sensitivity, right? And this is very, very important because it is a critical element in intuition development, right? So if you have to start a course on Reiki or Tai Chi, for example, right? This is very, very critical for you in this stage for you to get to this level. So spend some time understanding your energy field, right? Level 2, it's about deep knowing, and again, this differentiates itself from the body awareness, right? So the deep knowing is about just something off the bat, right? It just comes to you. And some exercises that can help you develop this level, there are exercises, what I shared with you, for example, in Dream Field. Again, you can Google that, Dream Field. And you can work with the different 4 elements in your dreams to connect with the 5th element, to be connected to this unified field of consciousness, to have more experiences of knowing things again and again, right? Savannah says, I'm still at level 3 trying into, right, okay, yes. And this is a very beautiful, she's still at, somatic cues. And Savannah, that's a great place to be. And if I were you, try to really cultivate your ability. Try to just, I'm going to show this quick exercise to you guys, right? If you're at level 3, and I'm answering this because, Savannah says she's still trying to hone her intuition in this area, right? Try to take your hands like this. If you've not done any Reiki or anything before, I want you to just move your hands back and forth like this, like you're fluffing clouds, right? And as you begin to do that, you're going to actually feel, and I'm feeling it very strong now, you're going to start to feel energy between your hands and fingers. And that's just really one very simple exercise, right? And then Reiki begins where you start to pass your hands over your body and feel what's going on around you. Before you go to bed at night, what I invite you to do, if you are trying to cultivate yourself at this level, I want you to place your hands on different parts of your body, your heart, your lungs, your neck, and just feel, what is your body trying to tell you? Just take that few seconds and try to communicate with your body, okay? Again, deep knowing, we spoke about the dream fields, and the pure psychic energy. Again, you can do that. One of the exercises is through lucid dreaming to help you strengthen yourself in this area. I saw that Bobby, I'm so sorry. I'm getting a little tongue-tied here. Bobby asked a question. She said, how can I look through people's eyes and I can see what they're doing? Bobby, is that a question? How come I can look through? Okay, so Bobby's saying she can look through people's eyes and I can see what they're doing. Are you referring to looking through someone's eyes and you know their intentions, or you know what they've experienced, or what are you referring to in particular that they're doing? If I interpret that question right, when you look, first of all, what I want to share with you guys, when you get to this level, it's extremely critical that, first of all, if you intercept someone's energy field, that you always have their permission. I will tell you, when I started, Diane, I'll answer that question to you in a minute. When I started my journey, I actually used to walk down the street and then I have all these thoughts coming to me about, people I'm seeing on the streets, and it was not very healthy for me. I became this vessel that picked up everybody's junk. And that wasn't very healthy for me. And it's also not very ethical to connect with someone's field without their knowledge. And I know that a lot of people do that, but from what I teach, it's not a very ethical thing to do. So, Bobby, what I do advise, if you are connecting with someone's energy field, or if you're connecting through their eyes, always ask them first, may I peer a little bit deeper into your soul? Always ask permission. And that can be a verbal permission, or even, connecting to their higher self, right? Now, there are times when you don't need permission, when you walk into a room and you just pick up vibes about someone or people in the room, and that's okay. But when you're actively connecting with someone's energy field, it's always good to have permission. And then, just to answer Diane's question, where do you start? What I do advise, Diane, at the end of this video, if you can have a look at it again, because it tells you from level 4 to level 1, it tells you some exercises that you can do to develop each part of this level until you get to pure psychic energy. So as I mentioned before, a lot of people just want to jump to this part down here. And what I'm advising people to do is start with level 4. Start with this level and then move your way through the inverted pyramid until you get to this level where things are easier, right? And there's another reason why I'm suggesting this. And this is not to freak anyone out. I once worked with a lady. She was doing ancient Indian exercises to activate her Kundalini. And that's great. But when you activate your Kundalini too quickly and you have not worked through your blocks, you have not worked through things in a systematic manner, you can really end up losing a part of your consciousness in this daily life. So I'll tell you, what happened to her was that her Kundalini got activated, and then she became her energy was just so high that it was impossible for her to eat, to sleep. She was just constantly shaking. She was able to connect with premonitions and telepathy, etc. But she was just always shaking. She felt like she was a psychotic person, and she was begging God to stop, to make it stop, because it was so uncomfortable for her. It was very uncomfortable to have her relationships with others, or to be a normal human being. So you don't want that. Take the systematic route that I'm sharing with you and develop from level 4, okay? And go to level 3, then level 2, and then level 1. And if it's just a little bit overwhelming for you, I do invite you to connect with me personally. I do take questions. Connect with me personally. I saw that my learning page was posted, or on my website, www.neetamaharaj.com. And as I mentioned, before, we have our intuitive mastery class starting in January 2017. And I do invite you to just to have a look at it. I mean, we're going to put that up next week. So have a look at it, or send me an email that you are interested, and I'm going to put you on the waiting list, or send you relevant information to read. Don't be afraid to send me questions, guys. Even if you want to post a question here and I can review it for next week's class, I can definitely do that and try to make sure we answer all of your questions, okay? So I hope what I've discussed made sense to you. For me, it makes sense to go through and move through these levels. So I hope this has helped in some way. And I just want to thank everyone for, I'm just looking at the comments here, thank you so much for being part of this. I always like sharing stuff like this. It's so dear to my heart. I'm really passionate about teaching these things because it's a path that I've walked. As I mentioned last week in my live stream, I didn't consider myself developed in any of these areas until I started to hone in on these abilities. So it's really been a journey of, coming from depression, suicidal states, not knowing where I was going, to really living a life of flow and connecting with my intuitive ability for guidance, okay, every single day. So, I hope that you are equally inspired to develop your level of intuitive and psychic ability, all right? So, much love.